Donald Trump and Joe Biden debated each other for 90 minutes on an air-conditioned stage in Atlanta, Georgia. The moderators, CNN Biden health cover-up propagandists and boosters Jake Tapper and Dana, don't call her Dana, Bash. The odds overwhelmingly stacked in Joe Biden's favor. No studio audience. Microphones were muted when a candidate was speaking. No interrupting. Two moderators from CNN. It couldn't get any better. And leading up to the debate, Biden seemed chipper for Biden, even though he couldn't read a 14-second video without doing multiple takes and stops and starts, which you can clearly see when you watch the video. Rehoboth Beach Joe was apparently up for the challenge of doing what every major party candidate has done since 1960, debate your opponent.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Okay, so that was right before the debate, but very few people were prepared for what would happen 1 year ago tonight. The media, places like CNN, MSNBC, Norah O'Donnell, David Muir, Chuck Todd, Joy Reid, the New York Times, the Washington Post, had literally been lying about Joe's condition, not covering it up, but lying about it for so long that half of America, the same 75 million people who voted for Kamala Harris anyway, could not believe what happened next. At 9 p.m., the lights went up, the moderators introduced the candidates, and within 90 seconds, mouths started dropping across the country.
Please welcome the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Folks, how are you? Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare.
Biden supporters were stunned. Trump supporters were stunned, but they were stunned for very different reasons. Biden supporters were stunned because many, truly absurdly, almost had no idea that there was anything really wrong with Joe Biden, members of my family. And Trump supporters, people that watched Newsmax, weren't stunned because something was clearly wrong with Joe Biden. They were stunned because this kind of stuff never happens to Republicans. The good fortune. Republicans are right about stuff all the time, but this was something totally different watching this play out 1 year ago tonight. The legacy media, that very same Jake Tapper media, and half the country mocked conservatives and told us we were crazy for 4 years. The legacy media scoffed at places like Newsmax, who dared to suggest that there was anything wrong with Joe Biden. You're not a doctor. You can't say that. You don't have a medical degree. But you were right all along. 80-year-old Joe Biden was in the throes of dementia or something worse. And as the night went on, it only got worse.
Dealing with everything we have to do with, look, and I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
I was at 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8.
Never.
But I have, you know how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
And that very same Jake Tapper who decided to play it straight that night was the very same Jake Tapper who tried to embarrass Laura Trump on national TV. How dare she try to make fun of Joe Biden's lisp during the campaign? Joe Biden's got a lisp that Joe apparently suffered from when he was 8 years old and completely disappeared for 70 years. According to Jake Tapper, was suddenly back. And he asked Laura Trump how she thought children out there with lisps would feel about someone insulting somebody with a lisp, not realizing in his immense arrogance that not a single child in the world with a lisp would ever watch his show. And if they were, I think they would think it was silly.
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses, diagnosing politicians from afar.
But Jake was in on the cover-up from day one. That's the truth. And Jake, you don't need a medical degree to see that something was clearly wrong and is wrong with Joe Biden. All you needed from the start were 2 eyes and a brain, Jake. But we can see the headline tomorrow. CNN. Newsmax host insults one-eyed people. Oh, the humanity. The next morning, all of Joe's horses and all of Joe's men in the legacy media tried their very best to put Joe Biden back together again. And the same people that lied to us before the debate continued to lie to us after the debate.
I've said it for years now. He's cogent. But I undersold him when I said he was cogent. He's far beyond cogent. In fact, I think he's better than he's ever been. Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
It was too late, though. It was over for Joe and it was over for Democrats. They didn't know it at the time, and Joe hung around for 3 more weeks until finally the calls for him to drop out grew too loud. George Clooney would write his little op-ed, but instead of doing the right thing, instead of holding some sort of primary where people get to actually vote in a democracy, remember all that stuff about democracy? Kamala Harris was just anointed Queen of the Universe. And Democrats, like they always do, fell right in line. But the most stunning part of this entire sordid tale is that the media immediately did too. The same Joe Biden liars and the same cover-up artists like Jake Tapper spent 2 months trying to convince the public that Kamala was some astounding combination of FDR, JFK, and Barack Obama. She was not. They tried to convince us that she was one of the great thinkers of our time. She is not. Married to a guy that knocked up his 3rd-grade daughter's nanny and was accused of slapping his ex-girlfriend in the face in France, coincidentally, right before he would meet Kamala. Kamala and Dougie, soon to become American royalty, but that, thankfully, never came to pass. 1 year ago tonight, America politically was changed forever. And Joe Biden will forever be remembered as a laughingstock, a footnote, a joke, and the answer to a trivia question. Benjamin Harrison. Joe Biden just became Benjamin Harrison, the guy that served as president between 2 Grover Cleveland terms. And it will be the same thing forever for Joe Biden now. That is his lot in life. That will be how he's remembered. He will forever be remembered as the guy who served as president between 2 Donald Trump terms.